Have you ever looked around your home, your familiar surroundings, and felt a pang of something? Maybe it's a little sadness, a little weariness, or perhaps just a quiet, nagging feeling that things are changing, and not always in the ways we'd hoped. I know I have. And lately, that feeling has been stronger than ever. It's a feeling that's led me to think a lot about choices, about decisions we make as we get older, and how those choices shape the rest of our lives. You see, I made a choice a while back, a choice that, looking back, I deeply regret. I decided to move into a nursing home. Now I know what some of you might be thinking. Nursing homes are necessary, they're safe, they're helpful. And in many ways, you're right. For some, they truly are a blessing. But for me, it's been a lesson learned the hard way. And that's what I want to share with you today. Not to scare you, not to discourage you, but to offer a candid look at my experience, so maybe, just maybe, you can avoid some of the same regrets. In this video, I want to talk about some of the reasons why I regret moving into a nursing home. It's not about bashing those who work there. Many are truly angels. It's about the subtle, often overlooked aspects of life that change when you make that transition, and how those changes can affect your well-being. It's about the loss of autonomy, the feeling of being disconnected, and the simple, everyday things we take for granted until they're gone. Let's start with the first thing that hit me hard, the loss of control over my daily routine. You know, we all have our little rituals, our ways of doing things. Maybe it's having your morning coffee just so, or reading the newspaper at a certain time, or even just deciding what to wear each day. In a nursing home, those little freedoms start to slip away. Suddenly, your day is dictated by schedules. Meals are served at set times, activities are planned for you, and even simple things like taking a bath or going for a walk require coordination with staff. It's not that they're trying to be difficult, it's just the nature of the system. But it's a system that can quickly erode your sense of independence. I remember the first few weeks. I felt like a child again, being told when to eat, when to sleep, when to participate in activities. It wasn't just about the schedule, though. It was about the lack of choice. I couldn't decide what I wanted to eat, or when I wanted to eat it. I couldn't decide to stay in my room and read if I wasn't feeling social. Every aspect of my day was managed by someone else. And that, more than anything, made me feel like I was losing a part of myself. The simple act of choosing your own breakfast, or deciding to take a nap in the afternoon, those are things we don't realize are so important until they're taken away. Then there's the issue of privacy. In your own home, you have your space, your sanctuary. You can close the door and be alone with your thoughts, your memories, your peace. In a nursing home, that's not always possible. You might share a room, or even if you have your own, there's always someone coming in and out. Staff members checking on you, cleaning, delivering meals, administering medication. It's necessary, of course, but it's also intrusive. And it wears on you after a while. You start to feel like you're living in a fishbowl, constantly observed, with no real place to escape. I recall a time when I simply wanted to sit and read a letter from my granddaughter, a private moment, a cherished connection. But there was always someone coming in, asking questions, needing something. It wasn't their fault, they were just doing their job, but it robbed me of that quiet moment, that personal space. And that's when I realized how much I valued the simple act of being alone, of having my own little corner of the world. And it's not just the physical privacy. It's the emotional privacy too. You start to feel like your life is an open book, shared with everyone around you. Your medical history, your personal habits, your daily routines, all of it becomes public knowledge. And while the staff are professional, it's still a strange and unsettling feeling. You lose that sense of personal dignity, that feeling that some parts of your life are just yours. Now that we've covered the loss of control and the loss of privacy, let's move on to the next significant aspect, the feeling of disconnection from the outside world. This is a point that many people underestimate, but it has had a profound impact on me. That feeling of disconnection, it's like a slow, creeping fog. You start to feel further and further away from the life you once knew. In your own home, you're connected to your community, your neighborhood, your friends and family. You have your familiar routines, your favorite shops, your local park. But in a nursing home, you're often removed from all of that. Visits from family and friends become less frequent, not because they don't care, but because life gets busy, and the distance can be a real barrier. I remember how much I missed my little garden, the one I'd tended for years. I missed seeing the seasons change, watching the birds come and go. I missed the sound of the neighborhood kids playing, the familiar hum of life outside my window. In the nursing home, the windows looked out onto a courtyard, a perfectly manicured space, but it wasn't my garden. It wasn't my world. It was a world that felt sterile, detached. And it's not just the physical disconnection. It's the social disconnection too. You're surrounded by people, yes, but they're not your people. They're strangers, with different backgrounds, different stories, different lives. You might make friends, and that's wonderful, but it's not the same as having your lifelong companions, your chosen family. You miss the shared history, the inside jokes, the deep understanding that comes from years of knowing each other. The conversations in the dining hall, the activities in the common room, they're all well-intentioned, but they don't fill the void. You miss the casual chats over coffee, the spontaneous outings, the comfortable silence shared with someone who knows you inside and out. You miss the sense of belonging, the feeling of being part of something bigger than yourself. Then there's the feeling of being treated as a patient, rather than a person. It's a subtle shift, but it's profound. In your own home, you're in charge of your health. You decide when to see the doctor, what treatments to pursue, how to manage your medications. But in a nursing home, you're often seen as a medical case, a set of symptoms, a list of medications. Your autonomy over your own body and your own health decisions diminishes. I found myself being told what to do, what medications to take, what therapies to undergo, without feeling like I had a real say in the matter. It wasn't that the staff were unkind, but they were focused on managing my health, not on understanding me as a person. I felt like a number, a statistic, rather than an individual with my own unique needs and preferences. The daily rounds, the medication schedules, the therapy sessions, they all became part of a routine that felt impersonal and detached. I missed the conversations with my own doctor, the sense of partnership, the feeling that my opinions and concerns mattered. I missed the sense of control, the feeling that I was in charge of my own well-being. And that leads to another significant regret, the feeling of diminished purpose. When you're in your own home, you have your roles, your responsibilities, your sense of contribution. You might volunteer, or help a neighbor, or simply take care of your own home and garden. You have a sense of purpose, a feeling that you're still making a difference in the world. But in a nursing home, those roles often disappear. I missed having something to do, something to look forward to, something that gave me a sense of accomplishment. The activities in the nursing home, while well-meaning, felt superficial. They weren't the same as having a real job, or a real project, or a real sense of contribution. I missed the feeling of being needed, of being useful, of being part of something meaningful. I remember longing for the simple tasks I used to do, like helping my granddaughter with her homework, or volunteering at the local library. Those little things, they gave my life meaning, they gave me a reason to get out of bed in the morning. In the nursing home, the days started to blend together, and I started to feel like I was just waiting. Waiting for meals, waiting for activities, waiting for visits. That feeling of just waiting, it seeps into everything. It colors your days with a kind of dullness, a lack of vibrancy. And that, more than anything, affected my overall happiness. You see, happiness isn't just about being comfortable or safe. It's about feeling alive, feeling engaged, feeling like you're still a part of the world. And in a nursing home, that feeling can be hard to maintain. I found myself missing the simple joys of life, the spontaneous moments, the unexpected pleasures. I missed the feeling of freedom, the ability to go where I wanted, when I wanted. I missed the feeling of adventure, the thrill of trying something new, the excitement of discovering something unexpected. In the nursing home, life felt predictable, routine, almost monotonous. And that predictability, that routine, it led to another regret, the feeling of stagnation. You start to feel like you're not growing, not learning, not evolving. You're just existing. In your own home, you're constantly adapting, constantly learning, constantly finding new ways to navigate the world. You're challenged, you're stimulated, you're engaged. But in a nursing home, life can become very insular, very limited. I remember feeling like my mind was shrinking, like my world was getting smaller and smaller. The conversations were often repetitive, the activities were often simplistic, and the opportunities for intellectual stimulation were few and far between. I missed the lively debates, the challenging discussions, the moments of intellectual curiosity. I missed the feeling of being mentally sharp, of being intellectually engaged. And it's not just the mental stagnation. It's the physical stagnation too. You become less active, less mobile, less independent. The routines and structures of the nursing home, while designed to provide care, can also inadvertently restrict your physical activity. You rely on staff for assistance, you spend more time indoors, you move less. And that can lead to a decline in your physical health, your strength, your stamina. I noticed myself becoming weaker, more dependent, less capable. I missed the long walks in the park, the gardening, the simple act of moving freely and easily. I missed the feeling of physical vitality, of being strong and capable. I missed the feeling of being in control of my own body. And all of these things, the loss of control, the loss of privacy, the disconnection, the feeling of being a patient, the diminished purpose, the lack of happiness, the stagnation, they all contribute to a feeling of, well, a feeling of regret. A feeling that I made the wrong choice. A feeling that I traded my independence for security, my freedom for comfort, my life for a routine. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not saying that nursing homes are bad. I'm not saying that they're never necessary. For some, they provide essential care and support. But for me, they represented a loss, a sacrifice, a trade-off that I wasn't prepared to make. And I want to share my experience, not to discourage you, but to encourage you to think carefully about your own choices, to weigh the pros and cons, to consider all of your options. And you know, as I've sat here reflecting on all of this, on the choices I've made and the feelings that have followed, I've realized it's not just about the tangible losses, the physical limitations, or the changes in routine. It's also about something much more subtle, something that creeps in almost unnoticed, the loss of hope. In your own home, you have the freedom to dream, to plan, to anticipate the future. You can envision new projects, new adventures, new experiences. You can look forward to holidays, birthdays, family gatherings. But in a nursing home, the future can feel limited. The days can blend together, the routines can become monotonous, and the sense of possibility can fade. And it's not just about the physical and emotional changes. It's also about the subtle, almost imperceptible, loss of connection to your own identity. In your own home, you're surrounded by your personal belongings, your cherished memories, your familiar surroundings. You're constantly reminded of who you are, where you came from, what you've accomplished. But in a nursing home, those reminders can fade away. I found myself missing my old photographs, my favorite books, my treasured mementos. I missed the feeling of being surrounded by my own history, my own story, my own identity. I missed the feeling of being connected to my past, my present, and my future. And that loss of connection to your own identity can lead to a feeling of, well, a feeling of anonymity. You start to feel like you're just another resident, another patient, another face in the crowd. You lose that sense of individuality, that feeling of being unique, that feeling of being yourself. It's a subtle, almost imperceptible shift, but it's a profound one. It's a shift that can leave you feeling lost, disconnected, and alone. And it's a shift that I deeply regret. And that feeling of anonymity, it's not just about losing your sense of self, it's also about losing your sense of purpose within a larger context. You see, when you're in your own home, you're part of a network, a community, a web of relationships. You have your roles, your responsibilities, your contributions. Even if they seem small, they matter. But in a nursing home, those roles often vanish. You become a recipient of care, not a giver. I remember feeling like I was no longer contributing to anything, like I was no longer making a difference. The opportunities to help, to volunteer, to share my skills and knowledge were limited. I missed the feeling of being needed, of being useful, of being a valuable member of society. I missed the feeling of having a purpose beyond simply existing. And that lack of purpose, that feeling of being disconnected from the larger world, can lead to a sense of emptiness. You start to feel like you're drifting, like you're lost, like you're no longer connected to the things that truly matter. Then there's the subtle, but persistent, feeling of being patronized. It's not always blatant, not always intentional, but it's there. The well-meaning staff, the simplified activities, the constant reminders, they can all contribute to a feeling that you're being treated like a child, like someone who needs to be coddled. I found myself feeling like my opinions weren't valued, like my experiences weren't respected. I missed the feeling of being treated like an adult, like a peer, like someone whose thoughts and feelings mattered. I missed the feeling of being heard, of being taken seriously, of being treated with dignity. And that feeling of being patronized can lead to a sense of resentment, a feeling of being misunderstood, a feeling of being disrespected. You start to feel like you're being dismissed, like you're being ignored, like you're being treated as less than you are. Furthermore, there's the constant, underlying feeling of being observed. It's not just a lack of privacy in your room, it's the sense that every action, every word, every emotion is being monitored. It's the feeling that you're living in a performance, constantly being evaluated, constantly being judged. I found myself feeling like I was losing my spontaneity, my authenticity, my naturalness. I missed the feeling of being able to relax, to be myself, to express my emotions without fear of judgment. I missed the feeling of being able to be vulnerable, to be imperfect, to be human. And that feeling of being constantly observed can lead to a sense of anxiety, a feeling of being trapped, a feeling of being suffocated. You start to feel like you're living in a cage, like you're being controlled, like you're losing your freedom. Adding to that, the meals, while nutritionally sound, began to feel like a constant reminder of my lost autonomy. The loss of the ability to cook, to decide what I wanted, when I wanted, and how I wanted it. The lack of the familiar smells, the familiar tastes, the comfort of my own kitchen. It was more than just food, it was a ritual, a connection to my past, a creative outlet. And that loss, it felt deeply personal. And beyond the feeling of being a burden, there's the subtle, almost imperceptible, loss of your sense of legacy. You know, in your own home, you're surrounded by the tangible evidence of your life, your accomplishments, your contributions. Your photo albums, your awards, your handcrafted items, they're all reminders of the mark you've made on the world. But in a nursing home, those reminders can fade away. Finally, there's the emotional burden of feeling like you're a burden. It's a subtle, unspoken feeling, but it's there. You see the staff working hard, caring for so many residents, and you start to feel guilty for needing their attention, for taking up their time. I found myself feeling like I was adding to their workload, like I was causing them stress, like I was being a burden. I missed the feeling of being independent, of being self-sufficient, of being able to take care of myself. I missed the feeling of being a giver, not just a receiver. And that feeling of being a burden, that feeling of guilt, can lead to a sense of shame, a feeling of unworthiness, a feeling of being a drain on others. You start to feel like you're not worthy of their care, like you're not deserving of their attention, like you're taking up too much space. All of these subtle, unspoken regrets, they add up. They create a cumulative effect, a weight that bears down on your spirit, on your soul. And that weight, that burden, is something I deeply regret. As I've shared these thoughts, I hope they resonate. I hope they encourage you to truly consider all facets of your life when making significant decisions. It's so much more than just physical needs. It's the emotional, the spiritual, the very essence of who we are. And I want to reiterate, you are not alone. There are resources, communities, and professionals that can assist you in remaining independent for as long as possible. Please never give up on yourself. Remember, small changes can make a big difference in your quality of life. Exploring options for in-home care or assisted living with more freedom might be a better option for some. It's about finding a balance between security and independence, between care and freedom, between comfort and fulfillment. It's about finding a way to live your best life on your own terms. I hope that by sharing my regrets, I've given you something to think about, something to consider. I hope that you'll take the time to reflect on your own choices, your own priorities, your own dreams, and I hope that you'll find a way to live your life with joy, with purpose, with fulfillment. Thank you for joining us today. We would love to hear from you. Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below, and share one thing you've learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us encouragement and motivation. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, share it with someone who might need to see it, and subscribe to our channel. We'll be back with more helpful videos soon. Cheers to living your best life, at any age, on your own terms. See you in the next video.